This one is going to be fun because I've got the DJI Mavic Pro, I've got the Insta360 One R with the 360 camera module, and to combine them I've got this. This is the Insta360 Drone Bundle. I'm going to show you what you get with it and how to use it. There are two mounts. This one, which goes on the top, then you've got this one which hangs underneath. Now, just a word of warning before we get into this, your drone will not like this, and it's not good for your drone. If you do this, you will get error messages, you will have the drone probably act erratically at times, be wobble, it's gonna mess with the sensors. So just to be warned, this is not something that you do lightly, and it's definitely not something that you do in a populated area. To use, especially to use this one where it hangs underneath, you have to turn off your downward positioning sensors, okay? That means the drone can't see what's beneath it and it can crash straight into the ground, but you can't have them on because with this dangling underneath, it just messes everything up. So just remember that, turn off the downward sensors, otherwise you're gonna have a very bad time. There's a much greater chance of something going wrong doing this than on a normal drone flight, and you might affect the life of your drone. So consider yourself warned. So probably the most interesting one is the one that lets you hang it underneath like that, because that way the most of the field of view is pointing downwards, which is what you want, and so you don't really see the drone, so you can get these shots that look like they're shot with an invisible 360 camera flying in space. And then the top mount, I think, gives you an angle that's more interesting in a different way, because the camera then sits up on top here and it can see the entire drone while it's flying, which just looks really weird. So it comes with these little hexadecimal screwdrivers, and then these little screws with rubber washers for mounting the camera. Now what you have to do is you have to put one rubber washer on here, you insert that in there, another rubber washer on, screw on the camera and tighten it up in there so that it doesn't wiggle around. You see there, so these little nubs, the little release nubs on the battery, clip straight on. You just have to make sure that it has engaged properly, because if it hasn't, this will just lift off. So that's it on properly. It's on properly when it won't move around, and that is how you mount it on the top. Now, the bottom mount connects in a slightly cleverer fashion. If you look at the front, there's a little nub thing here. Well, that clicks in underneath here. So you slide it up in like that, and then these two little, see these? These are the bits go inside these rubber parts on the base of the drone. There we go. So you can see that? They've both been squeezed in there. So they're gripping at the back, and this is gripped onto the front. So that is that mount now attached. It does wobble a bit, which does scare me. And then again, you attach screw, rubber washer, then rubber washer on the top, and then put the Insta360 One R or any other 360 camera you decide to fly on the bottom, like that. Okay, so that's how you attach the camera. Let's go and fly it. So to do this, what I normally like to do is get the drone set up, get everything running, even get the props starting to spin, then turn on the camera, and then hit record, and then fly. That way I've got the least amount of dead time on the file. 360 camera is rolling, drone is ready to go. Gonna hit record on the drone, so I have that as well. Let's fly. Okay, two things I hadn't realized, and one was that when this is mounted on the top, when this is mounted on the top, I immediately started getting GPS errors. So that means there's a very good chance you're going to lose your ability to fly with GPS, so you need to be a confident flyer if that happens. Hay fever. And the second thing is that I was getting these really weird oscillations. The camera was vibrating at a weird frequency and it was making the whole drone shake. So I really don't think this is going to be good for the drone long term. Both of these methods are quite problematic. The top one, it seems, because it gives you all kinds of sensor errors to your navigational controls, which is not good. And the bottom, because you have to hand launch it. So to hand launch it, you attach everything up, keep it in your hand until it runs through all its checks. Tap the take off button. There we go. Do have two ways of processing the files off the Insta360 One R. You can copy them to your computer and process them in the Insta360 Studio desktop. My preference is to use the app on the phone, and you can do it over the Wi-Fi, so you can connect it, open the shot and work with it, but I find if you transfer it to your phone, you'll get much faster performance when you're working with it, so I always transfer it to the phone first. But when you open up your shot, the tool I like to use for this is the Viewfinder Reframe tools, which lets you look around and use the gyroscope on your phone to reframe and zoom in and out the FOV as you go. And the way to activate that is you hit this little plus, and then you can see a little camera icon. You tap that, and then that puts it into that viewfinder mode. And then you can just look around any way you want. To start reframing the shot, you press and hold the little record button, and the shot plays out where you can zoom in, zoom out, reframe, and basically do whatever you want with the shot. The other thing that's quite good to do is to adjust the speed in places, especially if you filmed a little bit slow for safety reasons. You can go into the little edit button here, which gives you a speed option, and then you can select whatever speed that you want to speed it up to. If you leave the motion blur on, I think it works quite well because it gives you a much greater sense of speed, but you just select the speed you want and then you drag along, and that will apply that new speed to that segment. To export it, you just tap this little export icon in the top right, export fixed frame, and then I always tap custom and export it at the highest settings possible. So in that case, that's 1920 by 1080. Bit rate of 75 megabytes, and yeah, the maximum frame rate of 30. Those are default. And I do also like to turn on Color Plus because I think that does give you a little bit more detail in the shadows. And that is it for this crazy little setup. I hope you enjoyed that. If you take this out and you manage to get some amazing shots with it, if you take this out, if you try this and you manage to get some amazing looking shots with it, send me a link. I'd love to see what people do with this. It's definitely a setup I need to experiment with a little bit more. Don't think I've got the most from it yet. And if you like this video and you find it useful, feel free to subscribe. There's more videos on the channel featuring 360 cameras, drones, and other things like that. But that's me, and I'll see you on the next video, which I think might involve falling down a mountain. Yeah, I think that might be the next one. Bye-bye.